Hey everyone, and welcome to another explainer. Today, we're taking some really fascinating research and turning it into clear, actionable knowledge you can actually use. But right off the bat, I want to ask you a kind of personal but honestly crucial question. Have you noticed lately that your cycles are just off, like totally unpredictable? Or maybe you're dealing with this deep fatigue that even a good night's sleep just doesn't fix, where your body is changing in ways you feel like you can't control.
Look, it's so incredibly common to just brush off an irregular period, right? We've all been there. We tell ourselves, oh, it's just a crazy month at work, or I'm just super stressed out right now. But here's the thing. While stress is definitely a common scapegoat, irregular cycles can actually be a massive warning sign that something much deeper is going on with your whole endocrine system. Okay, let's dive into this and decode what your body might be trying to tell you. So we're looking at the 5 early warning signs of polycystic ovarian disease, or PCOD. First up, irregular or totally missed periods. Your cycle is just all over the place. Second is unexplained abdominal weight gain. You know, you're eating normally, maybe even hitting the gym, but the weight just stubbornly sticks to your midsection. Third is excess facial or body hair, which is actually driven by these male hormones called androgens. Fourth, persistent acne and oily skin that just lingers way past your teenage years. And finally, hair thinning or extra hair fall, especially from the scalp. Now, if you're checking the box on 2 or more of these, you really need to pay attention because your body is literally waving a red flag at you.
Here is our roadmap to reversal for today. We're going to cover the early signs and diagnosis of PCOS, look at stress as the hidden trigger, do a really cool clinical showdown of yoga versus resistance training, break down an amazing 16-week reversal case study, and finally, wrap up with healing through Surya Namaskar.
All right, part 1. Early signs and diagnosis of PCOS.
So doctors use something called the Rotterdam criteria. It's basically the global standard for diagnosing this. And the crazy part is you only need 2 of these 3 specific features for a diagnosis. Number 1, irregular or absent ovulation. Number 2, high androgens, which shows up as that excess hair or acne we just talked about. And number 3, polycystic ovaries showing up on an ultrasound, which usually means 12 or more small follicles or an enlarged ovary volume of over 10 milliliters. Because you only need 2 out of those 3, PCOS is vastly more common than a lot of people realize. It can affect up to 28% of women depending on how the criteria is applied. Moving on to part 2, stress, the hidden PCOS trigger. I really want you to hear this quote directly from the source research. Stress is implicated both in the cause and worsening of PCOS. It disturbs the normal hypothalamo-pituitary-ovarian axis. This is huge, guys. When you feel stressed, it is absolutely not just in your head. It's a real biological event that literally disrupts the communication highway between your brain and your ovaries. So, the crucial point here is understanding this biological domino effect. When you're chronically stressed, your body just pumps out high levels of cortisol. All that excess cortisol directly triggers insulin resistance. Basically, your body starts struggling to process glucose properly. And then, that insulin resistance forces your ovaries to overproduce those male hormones we mentioned, a state called hyperandrogenism. That overproduction is exactly what causes the missed periods, the acne, the weight gain. It's a total vicious cycle, and it just feeds on itself.
Let's get into part 3, yoga versus resistance training.
To figure out how to break this cycle, researchers published this fascinating comparative study in the International Journal of Creative Research Thoughts. They basically set up a clinical showdown. They took 40 young women, aged 18 to 25, all officially diagnosed with PCOS, and split them into 2 groups for a 4-week protocol. Group 1 did Surya Namaskar, the traditional sun salutation. They did 12 postures, holding each for 30 seconds, 5 rounds daily. Took about 30 to 40 minutes. Now, Group 2 did resistance training using TheraBands. They were doing multi-joint exercises like leg curls and chest presses for 2 sets of 8 reps every day. And they evaluated both groups using a standard scientific metric called the Perceived Stress Scale, or PSS, before and after the 4 weeks. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the visual data. The yellow bars are the after results. Look over at Group 2 on the right, the resistance training group. Their stress scores definitely went down, dropping from an average of 23 down to 17.70. That's a solid, medically significant improvement for sure. But wow, look at Group 1 on the left, the Surya Namaskar group. Their stress score is absolutely plummeted from 22.30 all the way down to a 15.00. So while both methods definitely worked, the yoga intervention was dramatically better at managing the specific stress that drives PCOS. So why exactly did yoga win this showdown?
Well, it all comes down to our autonomic nervous system. See, resistance training often triggers the sympathetic nervous system. That's our fight or flight response. It's great for building muscle, but it can actually spike cortisol initially. Surya Namaskar, on the other hand, directly stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. That is our rest and digest state. The deep breathing and the rhythmic stretching just flatten those cortisol levels right away. It calms the body without rapidly exhausting its energy reserves.
All right, part 4, a 16-week reversal case. Let's see what happens when this rest and digest advantage is applied long-term to someone with severe PCOS. This table documents a single case study of a 20-year-old woman who had been dealing with this for 3 years. She committed to 45 to 60 minutes of daily yoga for 16 weeks. Just look at these numbers. At baseline, her ovary size was 33 millimeters. By week 16, shrunk down to about 23 millimeters. But even more astoundingly, her follicular pattern went from showing multiple cysts, the classic PCOS look, to being totally normal. Her clinical impression literally changed from bilateral PCOS to normal ovaries. The physical structure of her internal organs actually reversed. That's incredible. And along with all that internal healing, she had a 1.3 drop in her body mass index. She went from 27.4 down to 26.1. And keep in mind, she achieved all of this entirely without any pharmaceutical medication. But it goes way beyond just the numbers. Her whole quality of life completely transformed. Her menstrual cycles became fully regular by week 12, she saw a huge reduction in hair fall, her PMS symptoms practically vanished, and her daily stress levels dropped from moderate to low. She even had better energy and core strength. And this brilliantly illustrates the core takeaway of our explainer today. When you actually treat the root cause, which is the stress and the insulin resistance, using holistic practices, the external symptoms just naturally resolve themselves. Okay, bringing us to part 5, healing through Surya Namaskar. Now, you might be wondering what this actually looks like. Surya Namaskar, or the sun salutation, has been practiced for literally thousands of years. It's this beautiful, flowing sequence of 12 asanas, or postures, that are perfectly synchronized with your breath. It was originally designed to show respect to the sun's life-giving energy, but practically speaking, it is a complete, full-body exercise. The 12 steps flow smoothly through 5 distinct phases. You start standing, doing a salutation and reaching up to stretch the spine. Then you hinge forward and step back into a lunge. Phase 3 is really the core of it all. You lower down and arch up into Bhujangasana, the cobra pose. Now, I know imitating a snake might not sound super relaxing, but biologically, it is magic for PCOS. This specific arching pose directly massages and stimulates your abdominal and pelvic organs, rushing vital blood flow right into the ovaries. After that, you just reverse the lunge, stretch back up, and end right where you started. And to make this practice even more powerful, traditional practitioners actually chant mantras in their mind during each pose. One really common one is Om Surya Namaha, which basically translates to salutation to he who illuminates. Bringing these mantras into the mix transforms the whole thing from just a physical stretch into a deeply spiritual, focusing, and energizing moving meditation. It just pulls you even further out of that stressful fight or flight state. So if you're ready to give this a shot, here are the clinical best practices for beginners. First, take it easy. Stick to 3 or 4 rounds maximum to start. The whole point of yoga is to leave you feeling energized, not exhausted. Second, the real magic is in the breath. Make sure you're synchronizing every single movement with an inhale or an exhale. Third, if you can swing it, try practicing while facing the sunrise or sunset. Now, a quick but very important medical note. You should absolutely avoid this practice entirely if you have high blood pressure, a slipped spinal disc, or severe abdominal ulcers. Please be safe.
All right, we've looked at the data. While resistance training is undeniably fantastic for your overall health and definitely reduces stress, Surya Namaskar holds this unique, clinically proven power to heal your endocrine system from the inside out. It drops cortisol levels and can literally change ovarian morphology. So the question is, will you roll out a yoga mat or grab a resistance band today? Whatever you choose, you now have the knowledge to take that first empowering step toward taking control of your health. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.